In any organization, company, dental practice, systems are integrated in everything. They touch the team, they touch your overhead, they
Yep.
touch efficiency, they touch patient experience. Like there's
Yep.
nothing that they don't touch. What changes for a team when strong systems are actually in place in the practice?
I think that teams thrive instead of surviving. When you put systems in place and they work for you, it's plug and play. And it's not to say that you're not going to have fires because you will, but when you have that fire, you have the time and the bandwidth to be able to put it out. It will steer the results, the patient experience, the experience of even the team members day to day. That is a result of everything that came before it.
Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Story Project podcast. I'm your host, Joanna Scott, and today's conversation is one I'm really excited about because we're going to explore a side of dentistry that doesn't always get the spotlight. My guest today is my good friend, Trish Constantine. She is a dental revenue cycle and credentialing specialist at Icon Dental Partners, who helps practices build stronger systems and healthier businesses. She's also a former dental practice co-owner, someone who understands firsthand what it takes to run a practice behind the scenes. Trish is wired to solve problems, advocate for teams, and help turn operational chaos into clarity. She proudly identifies as an Enneagram 8, yay, which means if something needs to be fixed, improved, or challenged, she probably is already thinking about how to tackle it. Outside of dentistry, you'll most likely find her outdoors, hiking or horseback riding. And one of the things that shaped her discipline early on was competitive swimming, which she did from age 6 through 24. That experience built a strong foundation of resilience, leadership, and work ethic that now shows up in how she helps practices grow and teams succeed. I'm so pumped for you to check out my conversation with the one and only Trish Constantine. Well, Trish, welcome to the Story Project. I'm really glad you're here. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you for having me, Joanna. I'm happy to be here.
So you and I actually go back a number of years.
Mhm.
Josh and I first met you and Rich when you guys were doing some content and kind of building out his personal brand. And we came to your practice,
Mhm.
Constantine Dental, and we did some filming with you guys and flew down to Greenville and got to spend some time in your hometown. It was really fun.
Absolutely. What was that, around 2021?
I think
2000?
so. I think you're
Yeah.
right. Because I think it was like right after the pandemic had kicked off. And I just remember we had dinner at a really yummy spot in Greenville, and it was just so walkable, and I hadn't spent any time there. So it was very memorable. It was fun.
Absolutely.
And then you and I have gotten to know each other a little bit more through the dental entrepreneur woman known as Do, the Do community, and attending the Do retreats. And we got to sit by each other at this last one, which was super
Yes.
fun. I might have cheated, and I was just like, I know we have table assignments, but can I just sit by you, please?
Absolutely. I love the do retreat and I really wish we actually had more time to connect with everyone. And I think next year I might actually go a day early just so I can connect with all the amazing women because it's something so neat to have all these women in one room at one time. And I often find I don't have enough time to actually sit down and connect and talk. So I'm so glad that you cheated and you sat at my table and we got to catch up.
We just won't tell Anne. Yeah, you're on my card this next year. Let's make sure we have dinner, even if other people are with us. I would love to just have a little bit of special Trish time. That's what I call it. So,
Love it.
well, I'm excited to talk to you just kind of about how dentistry found you today, the lessons you carried from competitive swimming into business and leadership, and just the work you're doing now, really helping practices turn chaos into clarity. But
Hmm.
before we do that, I always like to kick it off with some table talk icebreaker questions, just because they're fun. So, okay, sweet, sour, or salty?
Salty.
Okay. Would you rather see a sunset or a sunrise?
Sunrise.
Hmm. Which accent do you most enjoy listening to?
Italian.
Mine's French. Close. I'm always like, oh, can you just please say more and not don't stop talking? What's your favorite place to hide from the world?
Probably the gym
Hmm.
because I can compartmentalize and folk it's me time. I can focus and just put my headphones on and sweat it out. So
That's awesome. What would you choose for your final meal before having your jaw wired shut? That's not appropriate or anything, right? Dentistry.
I'm a steak and potatoes girl. I
This
would
is why
say
we get along. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm like a steak and fries. I've always told my husband, I'm like, I'm gonna open when I'm done with all this work stuff. Like, I'm just gonna do something for fun and open like a wine and fry shop. Wouldn't that be fun?
nice.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah, and you could have like fun little pairings with like a type of fries and have like truffle fries and like all the kind of fries. So I think that would be cool.
Well,
But
sign me up.
okay. Oh, awesome. Well, um, I'm excited to dive into your story. Before dentistry ever entered the picture, there was another part of your life that I recently just found out about you that shaped you pretty significantly. You were a competitive swimmer from the age of 6 through 24 years of age.
Mhm.
And I mean, that's a really big commitment for someone growing up. And tell us a little bit about what that season of life looked like for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the first part of my life, I didn't know life without swimming. It was my way of life. By the time I was 14, I was training twice a day, 4 to 5 hours a day, year round. And so much of my life was consumed with practice training, going to meets on weekends. I've had a wonderful opportunity of being able to travel the country to cities, new places, meeting new friends. I had teammates that were also from all over the world. So for me, it was a really great experience, but it also shaped who I am today and how I kind of see the world and how I show up. And so it's something I'm very, very grateful for that I had the opportunity to be able to do.
That's awesome, and that sounds very hard. Like, I'm just thinking about, I mean, 4 to 5 hours of swimming a day. Holy cow.
Yes.
That's an insane amount of discipline, like being instilled in you at a very young age. So tell me this. I've heard that swimming can be one of those sports that you train endlessly for before you really see like maybe results. I don't know if that's true or not, or if you could speak to that, but it's one of my favorite sports to watch during the Summer Olympics. And I think that
Hmm.
people can underestimate how challenging the training and the behind the scenes is.
Absolutely. So with any sport or, any career, there's often that delayed gratification where you're putting in that work before you actually see the result. And knowing that, I was able to take it day by day and really enjoy the process. I can say that with swimmers, you will train typically 3 to 4 months, sometimes 6 months before you're training for one meet at the end of the year. It's called a taper. So you will often um, every single day that goes into your training is for that one day or that weekend per year. And so it really taught me to slow down, enjoy the process, but understand and have the confidence and faith that I'm putting in the work and that it's going to pay off.
Um, I imagine you didn't win did they call them, is it like a meet?
And me,
I
yes.
mean, okay. Imagine you didn't win every meet. So because it's also like so visible when if you are behind in swimming. I don't know if every sport is the same, right? I think it's like a little bit different for every sport, but like you're looking at the swimmer next to you,
Mhm.
in competitive swimming, everybody's timing you, like that's a lot of pressure. So how did that shape the way you deal with setbacks or disappointment, like when you didn't win a meet?
So swimming is unique because it is a team collaboration, especially when you get to the high school or even college level, and then with relays. But on the flip side, it's also an individual sport. So you contribute to a team, but you're also swimming in individual races. And so I had to constantly look at my own performance and not, look around at what everybody else is doing as long as I was improving. That's what truly mattered. there were a lot of setbacks. And for me, failure is a gift. I think it's a teacher, and you only fail when you quit. And so what swimming has really taught me was that to shake off a bad race and get back up, because a swimmer will often have 3 to 4 races, during one day, or several, during a meet. And so you may have 20, 30 minutes between an event. And so if you had a bad race, you still have an opportunity to redeem yourself. And so it was one of those things where you got to get back in the pool, you got to step back up, and you'll be surprised with, who you are, and your resilience through that process. So that's something that truly shaped me. And like I said, I apply that to my career, to your day to day. You're always going to have setbacks. It's really how you respond to it, and stand back up.
I love that you said that because we don't know truly what's inside of us. We don't fully understand the resilience until we like get beat down or we fail or we lose, right? And then you're actually when you dig down and you're like, "Wait, I can be strong. Oh, I am
Mhm.
strong." You kind of like have this new awareness of that inner strength. It's kind of
Yeah.
incredible.
Absolutely. And it also tests your limits. So there were many times in high school and college where I was given a set that was mentally and physically challenging, and often failed or finished half the set off cycle. And the key was that you don't quit, you keep going. And that keep going mentality and that mindset is going to set you up for the next success. And so I knew I was going to get that set again. And so when I did, I crushed it because I kept going through that process, and I knew it was going to make me stronger and faster, and it was painful, but I knew I was going to get another shot. And so that's something too that, don't stop, keep going, stand back up, and allow you to know that this is part of the process.
I love that. Um, I think what's also so interesting too, is your story in dentistry that wasn't necessarily kind of your plan. So I want
Nope.
to, and what's so fascinating is so many people that get into dentistry, including myself, including, my husband Josh as well. It's very like the path often is unconventional. So tell us, how did dentistry enter the picture for you?
Well, I always say that dentistry chose me, that I didn't choose it. Um, so my previous occupation, I was a nurse, and in 2018, my husband's practice grew really, really fast, overnight. And he needed someone that he could trust and navigate the growth. And so I left my nursing job and entered Constantine Dental. And I have never looked back since, but it was something really neat, that we knew that we could do together because we shared the same commitment. And it was a great opportunity to be able to, go into entrepreneurship together. I had no idea what I would be learning and kind of discovering my strengths, through that process, and kind of how that's guided my career today.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so what was it like? Because he had already started Constantine Dental, and then you came in and you got to really see the business side of a dental practice up close and personal. I want to hear that from you. And the other question is, what was it like to work with your spouse and partner? Because you and I both have done that. So we're gonna get
Yes.
real, we're gonna get real here.
Yes, we're gonna get real. Well, first I would say it's fascinating. It was fascinating to me because, there's so many moving parts. It's kind of like lifting up the hood of a car. And so many people don't realize, what a dental, owner actually goes through in one day. It's more than just seeing patients, it's the operations, it's the team, it's the culture, it's the business side of it's the marketing, it's all the things. And so for me, it was really fascinating to see him in his element, but then also all the things that goes into running a business. And with that, you wear so many hats. And I think that that was something, as a spouse, where you're coming in into an environment where into a leadership role, where you are working with team members, as well as your spouse. It's a different dynamic, and it took us a little bit to kind of understand that wavelength. But I the neat thing was is because I understand him, very well, that I was able to kind of communicate that to the team, as well as be able to make decisions, that were best for us. And so it was something that was a learning curve, I would definitely say, when you first start working with a spouse. And then also knowing when to take that hat off. So, because you're together all the time. And so then there would be times at night where I would think of something and I'm like, I really need an answer to this question. It's been like 2 weeks since he's, given me an answer.
Yes.
But I had to learn how to refrain, and I would keep a notebook and I would just write it down. And then when we were in the practice, we would set time aside at the practice where we would just talk about the business, or I would get the answers that I needed to be able to move forward. And then that way we could compartmentalize like our home life versus our business life. And that was the system that worked the best for us.
That's awesome. And that system that takes those boundaries, guardrails, whatever you want to call them, it really does take some time
Yes.
to dial them to dial it in because we're, I don't know, some of us I think are better at compartmentalizing than others. Sometimes compartmentalizing can be a gift, sometimes it's not a gift. But when you see your spouse partner and you are working with them in business, you care about them in all aspects and like them personally, them professionally, and it all gets very like blended.
Yes.
So it took me definitely years because I'm very similar in like type A and driven as you are.
Mhm.
And so when you see your husband who happens to be the CEO of, the
Mhm.
practice, the company, whatever it is, you're like, I can fast track this. I don't need a meeting. I can ask him right now very quickly and move
Yep.
on just for the sake of progress.
Yes.
It's meant well, but yeah. So I mean, literally what you just said has been like, that was me in the beginning. It took me quite a while actually to realize what's healthy for us as a couple, as a married couple and a unit, and to make sure that that is prioritized over always just seeing each other through the lens of, oh, I work with you.
Absolutely. And I have a curse of seeing every tree in the forest. So when I see something, I'm like, we need to move on that. Or I can see visually like the future. And so that was something too, where we see things differently. Even though we have the same vision and the same goal, um, he might not be there yet. Or there may be things that I might be missing. So we do complement each other very well. And so what I've learned to slow down, pause, and say, this is what I'm thinking, kind of gather more information first before I just move forward with what I intend to do. So you start to get to know, your partner as well as in their strengths. And that's where I think, that success happens because then you start to lean on each other.
That's awesome. I see every tree in the forest. I'm going to write that down. I bet so many women listening to this podcast can relate to that. So you and I are both Enneagram 8s. We also love Clifton Strengths, and I thought it would be
Mhm.
fun if you just shared. So what are your top five? And at what point did you start realizing that your strengths would support you in your current role, a successful career in operations and systems?
Absolutely. So my top five are futuristic, ideation, individualization, strategic, and activator. And so I first realized my strengths when I was at Constantine Dental. However, there was some hindsight when I was a nurse in the operating room. I went through orientation for 6 months, and I quickly realized that every doctor has different positioning, medications, equipments, trays, and it can be quite overwhelming at first, especially when you're first coming into that type of environment. And so I noticed that nobody had anything written down. And at one point, I was going to be the only nurse in the room running the room. And so while most of the nurses had everything in their head, nothing was written down. I also noticed some inefficiencies, which I didn't realize at the time was something that I also is like a pet peeve. When I see something and I know it can be better, I want to make it better. And so I started writing down notes every single day that I was in training. And then I created Word documents with blocks, where it's like equipment, medication, positioning, and created a binder for the unit. And as new team members would come on, I would share to help kind of close that gap, get them up to speed. I'm also a visual person, so it allowed me to make sure that everything was correct. And I had like pre-op, during surgery, post-op. And so I was already doing those things, and I didn't even know that an SOP was. And so when I came to our dental practice, I observed a lot of the workflow and the bottlenecks and all the things that drove me crazy because I knew that it could be more efficient, it could be better for the patients as well as our team. And so that's when I started to create all of the systems and team training within the practice.
My gosh, what a gift. That's just so, like, honestly incredible. I know when I hear that, I'm like, oh, I love binders. I know it's not digital, but like you have to love the plan inside the binder. I mean, it just makes the world go round, literally. So a lot of incredibly talented clinicians and dentists are running practices without clear systems supporting the team. And that's really where you found your lane. So when you say the word systems, what does it actually mean in real life inside of a practice?
So systems are processes and workflows, and the key is that you keep it simple, efficient, and repeatable. And the goal is to be proactive, not reactive. And so there's a great quote by Michael Gerber. It's called Systems Run the Business and People Run the Systems. And so, a great example of a simple system that you can implement into a dental practice is with eligibility, which is often a pain point for a lot of practices. The patient comes in, gets the dental treatment, they send the claim, it gets rejected due to the patient being ineligible. Now you're chasing the money, so the claim's delayed, or those a lot of practices end up writing it off. And so simple systems that you can put in place is establishing a clear person for that role. So for example, like an insurance coordinator, their role is to get that information and verify 7 days out. And so they're following it all the way up to the appointment. If the patient does not respond and does come in, then there's a transfer of power where that goes to the front office. They're now asking. So there's communication there as well as accountability. And then if the patient presents, you can go ahead and run that insurance check. If they don't, then that front staff is offering a treatment plan at cost to make sure that it is covered. And so that way, you know that essentially you are also getting paid, but then also educating the patient, on their insurance and their options. So it's simple, but it works. And having those systems in place and clear roles and responsibilities is what allows you to operate, and really get off that hamster wheel.
Yeah, it's crazy in any organization, company, dental practice, how systems are integrated in everything. Uh,
Hmm.
they touch the team, they touch your overhead, they
Yep.
touch efficiency, they touch patient experience. Like there's
Yep.
nothing that they don't touch.
Everything.
So everything. What changes for a team when strong systems are actually in place in the practice?
So I think that teams thrive and instead of surviving. A lot of practices and teams and dentists are surviving right now. And so when you put systems in place and they work for you, um, it's plug and play. And it's not to say that you're not going to have fires because you will, but when you have that fire, you have the time and the bandwidth to be able to put it out, instead of fighting fires all day long. So having systems can allow people to thrive and really enjoy the work. And like you said, it will steer the results, the patient experience, the experience of even the team members day to day. And so that is a result of everything that came before it.
Well, I imagine there's a ton of evaluation that goes into screening what's existing as far as systems when you go into a practice and then
Mhm.
allowing that evaluation, that data to really guide how you either fix the system or create a brand new one and then go from there. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I'm very curious. I've learned to be very curious and to understand some current like bottlenecks, what systems or lack of them that they have in place. Also, what resources practices have because every practice is different, right? With whether it's digital resources, whether it's team member resources, understanding the workflow. So a lot of questions and observation and behavior observation is very helpful. And then utilizing best practices are a staple and seeing how it works for them. You can customize it. There's many different ways to skin a cat. The most important thing is the end result. And so really working with the team to collaborate on the best way and the easiest way, because again, simplicity is key to implement those processes.
That's awesome. John Maxwell and um, it's either the 12 or the 14 irrefutable laws of leadership, and he talks about the law of curiosity. And I
Hmm.
love that so much. It's always been one of the top laws that he's written about that has connected with me because I think that asking good questions and being curious and not going in making assumptions
Hmm.
is key to regardless of the profession or company organization you're working within. Being curious and not walking in like you know everything. And having I think being curious actually carries with it some humility. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yes. Being curious and then also, asking questions and listening. I think that is important. And, you can even ask questions in multiple ways. I think that's super helpful too. But just having, that understanding of an empathy, with what if team members are overloaded and some of the things that they're facing. And so there's a lot that goes into, some of these bottlenecks and really finding the root cause is the key. And so I always say ask why 5 times and you'll eventually get to the root cause.
Yeah, there's probably surface wise, and then
Hmm.
there's the actual foundation and
Yep.
what. Yeah, yeah, I love that. So when things are working well, because there are obviously some well-run practices out there
Mhm.
with amazing systems, what does a truly well-run practice or really high-functioning dental team look like within a thriving practice?
So the first is team accountability for outcomes. So follow through as well as, ownership of outcomes. The second is daily visible key metrics. So high performing teams know where they are, but then also where they're going daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. The third is clear role of ownership. So I always say clear is kind and unclear is unkind. The fourth is continuous training and improvement. So investing in your team is key. I am very passionate about training. We actually, the last few years at Constantine Dental, opened up late every other Wednesday morning. We trained our team for an hour and a half, and most dentists would be a little put off by that due to losing production, right? And revenue and collection. But we realize that investing in your team is actually going to give you a return on investment. And so we would do uh, team activities, culture, but then we would also break out into front office, insurance, clinical, hygiene. So the clinical team may be learning core and they're actually applying it to themselves so they can learn it. And then the front office maybe learning how to talk to patients about core, how to build it out, who is a good candidate and who's not. And so we would collectively plan these out, and we have noticed a significant shift in the culture, in the high performance of the team, as well as the success of the practice. And so, what a lot of people don't realize is studies show that it's hard to learn on the spot and it's hard to learn when you're nervous.
Mhm.
And so we often throw new things at team members and then expect them to just pick it up. And so it gives them the time to train and go through things and maybe make a mistake. And then that way, when we go live and we implement it, we're already setting them up for success. And then the last thing I would say would be leadership review weekly. So trust but verify, but create opportunities to coach, redirect, create a safe space for your team to give feedback and ideas.
Well, and you and I both obviously believe this. Systems are sexy. I'm actually going to get some t-shirts that
I love
say that.
that.
They are. I think you would wear it. I would wear one. I like people thrive within frameworks.
Yes.
I actually
Yes.
think it's the same with children. I've always been huge with routines, sleep
Hmm.
routines, eating routines, just like all of it, because one day they're going to be out on their own, and I want them to make healthy choices with their body, right? And
Yes.
get enough sleep and rest and eat the right foods and that kind of thing. And so I've just always been that way. And I actually think that people thrive within them. It's not a burden. It's actually quite the opposite.
Absolutely. And it frees you up to actually, like, once we had systems that were running themselves in our practice, it created so much more time for the personal interactions, the patient interactions, the actual joy of the job. And so it frees you up, it gives you boundaries, it gives you that calmness as well because you know what to expect, right? You're anticipating it, as well as, operating within those boundaries. And you know what decisions to make and when to make them because you have a playbook.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a playbook. I'm writing a few things down as you are speaking. I was like, oh, that's good. Oh, I'm going to try that with someone like a team member. You know what I mean? Just kind of gets my wheels turning for sure. Well, something else you mentioned recently was a book that you really love called Die with Zero and how much it's just shaped your perspective. I'd love to hear a little bit more about why that book has just resonated with you.
Absolutely. So in 2020, Rich and I both read the book Die with Zero. And why and how it resonated with me is we both had a parent that passed from cancer. My mom was 57 and his dad was 63. So they didn't have an opportunity to retire, and often take vacations that they wanted to or that they've always dreamed of, or even start new hobbies that they, had on their list. And so when we started reading the book, we started to reflect on that. And also, the book speaks to many people have the funds by the time that they're 65. So they have the means to go take this trip, but they're not able to because of their health, or they're not able to do it with the person they want to do it with. So that was really important to us to start putting it on the calendar, which is key ahead of time, to make sure that you plan for it and that you actually do it. And so we started taking small trips out west. As you know, as a business owner, sometimes you don't want to be away from the practice, for many days on end. So we would fly out on a Friday, do 2 days of hiking out west, and then come back on a Monday. And so we started making these small trips, in places that we wanted to explore. And we started doing it now instead of waiting, for that 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road, or, when we're 65. And so that's how this kind of all started. When I was 40, Rich took me to Jackson Hole for my 40th birthday. And he had been there before and I haven't. And so he was so excited for me to see the West. And that was my first experience of the West. And I was completely blown away. Just it's the most amazing landscape, and just being able to slow down and really take nature in. And on the way home from the trip, I bought a journal inside of an airport, like it was like a kiosk. And so I sat on the plane and made a list of all of the things that I wanted to start doing, that I wanted to start learning, and some of the places that I wanted to go. And so since then, I've been slowly checking off that list.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I mean, because truly, none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. And
Nope.
without, I know some people, I don't know, don't like to reference or speak about people passing or death, but it is a reality of the world we live in. And so many of our families have been affected by losing people that we love. And so being intentional with your time now and not pushing it off. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Absolutely. And, I think, when you look at your career, you know, I think that that's something too that, whether you take a risk, or you decide to make a change, that is something that, we really looked at and figured out what is the life that we want to live, and stop waiting for retirement, to to make those things happen. And so we just decided to do things. They can be little things and they don't have to cost money. Take the hike, you
Mhm.
know, go see a show that you have always wanted to go see. So they can be little things, and that's something that the book is really neat about too. It's not just a trip, right? It's life experiences, and that's kind of where was more important to us, was more experiences.
What is that quote by Lucille Ball that you love?
Um,
I think I have it here. It's you shared this with me earlier. I'd rather regret the things I've done than
uh,
regret the things I haven't done. And that just really stuck out to me because one, she was just such a fabulous, actor and I feel like icon, really just paved the way doing what she did. Um, and yeah, I don't know. That resonates with me because I'd rather take the risk, the leap, make time for those I love, the things that I like explore, have adventures, and not get to the end of my life and go, well, I didn't do any of that because I was too busy with work.
yeah, absolutely. And research into regret does show that people feel deeper, longer lasting regret over inaction, risk not taken versus missed opportunities. And so I love that quote because it means that you tried, that
Yeah,
you put yourself out there. And if it doesn't work out, you have the knowledge, you have the talent, you have the experience. It's going to stay with you. That is something that no one can take away from you. And so if you decide to try something and it doesn't work out, you still have something very valuable that you can fall back on. And that's something that, really spoke to me because I think we often wait for others' permission or permission from ourselves
yeah,
to take that leap or that risk or that next step. And I know that I have learned to bet on myself. And that was something that I think that is instilled in me as a very young child, but at the same time, we often think, well, what's someone else going to think?
yeah.
And so there are sometimes that things that hold us back, and that voice in our head, all of the things that come with it. So I am a big believer that if it's tugging on you in your heart, don't do something that's not, calculated, or irresponsible.
Sure.
Um, but we often have what it takes. We're just afraid to go do it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's something that's been on my radar for a couple years that this is really inspiring me to just jump into. It's dance lessons. And I know that might just sound like really fun. I want to learn how to like actually dance because I love dancing, but I just like have my own kind of dancing style. Like I don't know a specific genre of dancing. So I don't know. I either want to do like hip hop or, salsa or like whatever, and just like let myself be free. Uh, and yeah, I think it's those things that tug on your heart and you don't know until you get into it and you're like, oh, like when I get away and I'm able to be on a mountain and hike, that's my happy
Hmm.
place. Literally, my soul
Same.
is just like I'm like, wow, should I have like lived out my entire life in Montana or something?
Yes,
Oh, it's just so interesting. You don't know unless you expose yourself to those things and go after it and kind of follow. And honestly, some of those things are just tugging at that inner child that lives on the inside of us.
absolutely.
That like a little inner child that we get to know as we turn into adults, that's still a part of us.
Yep. And speaking of dance lessons or, that trip or that hike or even that, next career move, make it an appointment, schedule it, register, whatever that process is, because when you do that, it's going to, first of all, you're committing, then you're moving towards it, right? And so it's actually the action that moves you forward. And so that's one thing I recommend, even if it's uncomfortable, schedule the appointment because and show up. And it's amazing how quickly then things start to happen once you do that.
Well, I'm not going to ask you to be my accountability buddy unless I'm serious because
Well, we
you're
did.
going to be like, come on, Joanna, book it.
Well, we actually did that with a horse drive. out in Idaho where we were you're supposed to be advanced. And so I have never ridden a horse.
Oh my
A
gosh.
pony when I was like six, but nothing,
Yeah.
serious. Okay. And Rich grew up around a farm and horses and all of that. And so we signed up for this advanced horse drive in Du Bois, Idaho, and it's 4 days, 20 miles per day out on the land. It's glamping, but you stay in tents. They bring your things from one end, to the other. So you're at a different spot each day. And you there is it's an intense drive because with cattle you'll go slower because they move slower, but they often don't want to burn off the fat, and so there it's just a slower it's a cattle drive. Well, with horses, 65 horses, you're flying, and so you have to be advanced, and so they only take 12 to 13 people. So we signed up for it, and then I gave myself a year, but we signed up for it, and then the next day I started taking lessons.
Good for you.
Yes, and I did it, but it was just one of those things that it forced me, and I took it very seriously. And made sure that I was ready for it. But it was one of those things that scared me, but I wouldn't have done it or prepared for it if I didn't first sign up and then said, okay, now I've got to get ready.
Yeah, right. It's booking it, it's scheduling it, and then
Yeah,
yeah. Because I think it's hard. I don't know. For me, my personality sounds like yours. It's hard for me to break an appointment once I've made it.
yeah.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh, what the best story.
Or you're scared if you don't prepare for it.
Right, right. Yeah. It's like a healthy fear kind of thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, well, I love how passionate and just how much you care about practices thriving and teams thriving operationally. What impact do you hope the work that you're doing has on dentistry?
I hope that my path makes it easier for others and kind of closing that gap, with knowledge and just helping others get to the result faster. It took me years, months to figure it out. I'm still learning every day. But if I could help someone get there faster, and make it easier, that would definitely be a lasting impact.
Uh, and then can you speak a little bit just to the next generation, of graduating dentists and all of these dental teams, or leaders, like what would be just kind of some closing words for them? Because I'm reflecting on this all the time because it's become such a huge shift. But there are more women, as you know, than
Hmm.
ever before being attracted to the profession of dentistry in droves. We're
Hmm.
talking like from I think the stat is 13% in 1980 to we are well over, we're going pushing 60 to 70% now. I heard a statistic from a dental leader recently that said by 2030, it'll be 80% of women are
Wow.
dental practice owners. So something is going on there. What would you say to the women that are practice owners, and even just whether they're the new generation or just, existing practice owners?
I would say lead with confidence, invest in your teams, and to also know that Rome wasn't built in a day. And I think women, especially ambitious women, can struggle with, getting to that mountaintop and immediately. And we're often the most, hard on ourselves. And so I would say pause, enjoy the journey. It is a journey, and learn something new every day, and continue to invest in yourself and ones around you.
It's amazing. Rome wasn't built in a day. I think I needed to hear that today, Trish. You have a lot of wise words. That's super encouraging. I think there is something to be said. I'm like strategic achiever, arranger, focus, relator. I am like, let's go. Like if something is stuck or whatever, I
Yes.
mean, we're eights. We're also forces of nature, the highest
Yes.
amount of energy on the Enneagram. And I think that that also can translate, like the basement side of that for me is I can tend to be like really impatient with myself, with my
Yes.
team. And I'm constantly like, progress is everything. And sometimes it's at a detriment to me. and even my team in years past, like those have been pain points for me and growth opportunities for sure.
And I love that I love everything you just said. I could totally relate as an Enneagram 8. It took me some time to realize that just because I'm ready and I'm bought in, that not everybody is there. And the most important thing as a leader is to make sure that your team is with you. And so, like I said, I can see every tree in the forest. And so I'm ready to go. And I don't understand why not everybody else is. And so I've had to pause and bring it back to why, start with why. Give your team members time to digest, and understand that it's a process. And then making sure everyone has the right resources, that everyone is on the same page. Because for me, and some maybe sometimes you see something very clear, but then there's other people that have questions or anxiety or just the unknown. And so that's something that you have to slow down and address, and then stay curious too, to understand maybe why they may feel a certain way or not be accepting to some change. And so I love growth. I love change. I'm a mover, a shaker, but I have learned that I've got to slow down and make sure that my team is with me.
Wise words from the one and only Trish Constantine, for sure. I know that I'm not the only one soaking these words up. So thank you for sharing your story today and just your perspective with us and all the experiences that you've been through that have just really shaped your life. And it's so cool to hear stories because now other people know about your story, right? And those experiences and things you've pushed through as a swimmer all those years, what's really incredible is you're bringing that discipline, that strength, those frameworks to dental practices to help them thrive. And what a gift that is. So thank you. Um,
Thank you. Thank you,
yeah,
Joey.
thank you for being on this podcast. So if anyone listening wants to get in touch with you and follow you on social media or even just reach out, what's the best place to do that?
I am on LinkedIn and Instagram.
Okay, got it. Amazing. Well, everybody, audience listening, thank you for just being a part of the Story Project podcast community. And just a reminder that your story isn't finished, there's more to come. So we'll see you next time.